Hey everybody and welcome to the Dynamic Prepper. Today we're going to take a look at some freeze-dried meals. Look at these guys. We're going to talk about why they're important, what kind of role they can play in your preparedness pantry, what to look for when you're buying them, and we're going to eat some too. Okay, so I'll admit the title of this video is slightly misleading. I'm not going to do the traditional kind of get all the same menu item in a bunch of different freeze-dried food brands, make them all up and taste them and tell you what I think. That video exists 100 times over on YouTube. There's plenty of those out there and I don't really feel a need to recreate that. Secondly, I can already tell you what myself and 90% of other people are going to think, that Mountain House is usually the best, Backpacker's Pantry is okay, and Weis Company is, decent. So nothing new there to offer. I can already tell you the outcome of most of those shootouts. Now, of course, there are other brands than just the ones that I'm showing here, but I think through looking a little bit closer at these brands and doing some taste testing, we're going to be able to look at some of the differences in these meals, why certain meals cost what they do or are what they are, and what markets they're going for, and how that affects what the meal is and what's in the package. And then, of course, what you want to be considering when you're looking at adding freeze-dried food to your preparedness pantry. So the first two I'm going to take a look at are the Backpacker's Pantry and the Mountain House. These are sort of your outdoor adventure, camping, hiking, backpacking type ready meals in a package, all one meal in a package. Just add water. It's quick, it's easy. These are well made, lots of really good ingredients, and taste pretty good. In my opinion, the Mountain House has traditionally been a little bit better than the Backpacker's Pantry, but Backpacker's Pantry makes some recipes that are pretty unique, and their desserts are very good also. These are really marketed again towards your outdoor adventure, camping, hiking type clientele. Not necessarily for your person who's necessarily making up an emergency supply of food or a prepper pantry. They lend themselves pretty good for what preppers and preparedness-minded people are looking for in meals, but they also can be a little overkill for what we really need. And it's one of the reasons why these are typically a little bit more expensive. I don't knock that at all. The market that they're going for, sort of outdoor people who are going out and enjoying the outdoors, that want a good meal that tastes good, is probably good for you, healthy, made with real ingredients. One of the things I will say, that if you read the menu item, Jamaican style jerk, here we got chicken fajita bowl. If you turn them over and look at the ingredients lists, they're fairly short. And they're pretty straightforward. I mean, it's chicken and rice and beans and seasonings. There's not a bunch of stuff that you can't pronounce. There's not a bunch of fillers. They're pretty straightforward. One of the nice things about freeze-dried meals is they do have very long shelf lives, typically in the 25 to 30 year range. In fact, Mountain House has announced just within the last year or so, I think, that they are extending their guarantee on all of their products to 30 years. And this is also retroactive. So if you have a Mountain House meal from like 10 years ago sitting on your shelf, regardless of what the best if used by date is on the back, that is now guaranteed for 30 years by Mountain House. Another cool thing about these kinds of brands here is they do come in these self-sealed cook-in-pouch bags. These obviously do increase the price of these types of freeze-dried meals because these, this packaging is a little bit more expensive than traditional packaging. But the nice thing is it's super easy and it's very convenient. Obviously, it's something that's geared towards outdoor usage when you're camping and hiking and things. If you're cooking these things in your home, obviously you don't really need that pouch. It's nice to have it, but you certainly don't need it. And that does boost the cost of these items a little bit more than some of your traditionally packed freeze-dried food items. One of the things I like about Backpacker's Pantry is the fact that they do some menu items which are fairly unique, and they have some really good desserts available also. The other thing I like about them too is they pack very small. They actually kind of suck all the air out, sort of vacuum pack these in a way. And so these packages take up a lot less room. So when you're packing these in, you can typically put more food, more meals in your backpack or wherever on your storage shelf or whatever. They store really nice, and I definitely like that. You can tell the difference between the thickness there of a Backpacker's Pantry versus a Mountain House meal right there. So with Mountain House, they just seal the bag up and then they put an oxygen absorber inside to soak up that O2. And then of course they advise you to remove that when you add in your hot water to go ahead and prepare your meal. Overall, I like both of these. I tend to rely a little bit more heavily on Mountain House meals than Backpacker Pantry, and I think you're going to see the reason why when we go ahead and start opening these up and tasting them. But I do like the variety that Backpacker Pantry brings to the table, and it's the reason why I like to work a few of these into my prep. One of the issues with Backpacker Pantry, and they do have a bit of a reputation for this, is they can be very high in sodium. You do have to watch your sodium levels with these meals. Just to give you an example, this particular meal, which is Jamaican style jerk, rice and beans with chicken, and then I'm comparing that to Mountain House chicken fajita bowl, which is grilled chicken, rice, vegetables, and black beans. So even though these are two separate recipes, they're still, for all intents and purposes, rice, chicken, and beans with seasoning. That's basically what they both are. So they're as similar as I can get them without having the exact same meal available. These are both 2-serving meals, and the sodium value for the Backpacker Pantry is 1,430 milligrams of sodium per serving, and the Mountain House is 690 milligrams of sodium per serving. That means if you were to eat this entire bag, which I know a lot of people do that, if you were to eat this entire bag, you'd get about 1,300 milligrams of sodium, which is less than if you ate half of this bag. Eating this entire bag would put you up to almost 3,000 milligrams of sodium just in one meal. That is a butt ton of sodium. So if you're concerned with your sodium intake, and I know some of you are and some of you aren't, but if you're concerned with your sodium intake, you want to keep an eye on Backpacker Pantry. They do have a reputation for being a little high in sodium, and you want to kind of take that into consideration. Now, of course, the sodium levels are going to vary with the different types of meals that you have. Different meals are going to have different sodium levels. But to show you that that just wasn't a fluke of that particular meal, here I'm going to compare Louisiana red beans and rice to Mountain House rice and chicken. So certainly, again, not the exact same meal, but sort of comparable rice-based meals. Here we have a sodium content of 1,160 milligrams. Here we have a sodium content of 750 milligrams. So the next one I'm going to take a look at is the Weis Company. Weis Company. So here we have a couple of different meals, and I'm not really going to compare these head to head with each other because they're very different things. What I'm illustrating here is that there are kind of two different products that the Weis Company does. The first one, as you can tell here, is these prepackaged meals. Again, these are much like the Backpacker's Pantry or the Mountain House meal, where it's in a self-contained pouch that you can add the water and do everything right here in the bag. They are geared and marketed more for the outdoor adventure, camping, hiking. They're higher quality ingredients. There's no fillers or anything in these meals. They're actually very good quality. They're a little bit more expensive, obviously, because of the packaging and also because they use some higher quality ingredients in those. So this is obviously another choice that you have, and these products here that come in these bags are very comparable to what you're seeing with the other two brands that we just looked at. The other side of Weis Company are these freeze-dried meals, and there's also things that come in cans and buckets and bins and boxes and all sorts of stuff. But basically, these are meals that come in just traditional packaging, and these are more geared for your survival pantries, preparedness-oriented people, preppers, things like that. Emergency food that's available when you need it, something that's meant to be shelf-stable for long periods of time and then there when you need it. Obviously, these products are for a very different market than what we've seen up until now, whereas those products are a little bit more concerned with the quality of the food, the packaging that it comes in, the usability of it, the variety of flavors and meals available, some sort of more higher end palettes, if you will. These are more geared towards people that are looking for a little bit more bang for your buck. The packaging obviously is not as important here because we're not out in the woods making these. And some of the ingredients that you see in this are the level is coming down a little bit in quality. Two of the main things is they do use some lesser quality ingredients. For instance, you'll see things like non-dairy creamer being used instead of powdered milk, which is one. The other thing is that these have a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but these are pretty well known for having textured vegetable protein added to these meals. Textured vegetable protein is a soy product. It's basically tofu for all intents and purposes. And it's added in place of meat in order to boost up the volume and content along with stabilizing the protein levels. It's basically filler. So flavorings and textured vegetable proteins are some of the things that are added to these meals instead of sort of real ingredients to sort of act as fillers and things like that in order to produce a higher volume of food, but also being a little bit more price conscientious on these things. That's not to say that these are inferior meals and you shouldn't buy them. Obviously you should buy them. I buy them all the time, but your expectation here has to be a little bit lower. This is not geared towards somebody who would eat, you know, tiramisu out of a bag around a campfire while they're camping. This is something that's definitely geared more towards a preparedness-minded person, a prepper, survival pantry. So again, you just have to go into this with some reasonable expectations. All right, let's heat up some water and eat some food. All right, so now we're over here at the bench. We'll kind of get into some of these a little bit more deeply here. We'll cook these up. So here we have from Backpacker's Pantry the Jamaican style jerk rice and beans with chicken. Here we have the Mountain House chicken fajita bowl. Again, I chose these because even though they're not the exact same menu, they are very similar as far as their ingredients go, and it will be a good comparison to do. I'm also going to try this Mountain House strawberry granola crunch. This is adding cold water to that one, which is the reason why I wanted to try that. And then I'm also going to do the Savory Stroganoff. I've actually done this on the channel before, and so those of you who've been with me for a while, there'll be a little bit of review there, but I just really like stroganoff, so I'm going to give that one another try. I'm thinking I might also do one of the Backpacker Pantry desserts also, because I think that's really where Backpacker Pantry really kind of sort of shines into its own. Okay, well, I got the stroganoff hydrating right now in a pan, because obviously we can't do it in the package like we can these others. Let's go ahead and get the Backpacker Pantry Jamaican style jerk going. So before we begin, that's what that guy looks like. You see the beans and the chicken kind of cut up into strips and stuff, the rice, some other ingredients in this. Let's go ahead and put in our water. Okay, so that is exactly 2 1/4 cup of water, which is what the instructions called for. We're going to go ahead and seal that up now and give that a shake. Gotta be careful here because it's very, very hot, but we're going to go ahead and give that a shake. And we're going to let that sit. You don't want to come back to that and re-agitate it in a little bit. All right, let's find the oxygen absorber here and get the chicken fajita bowl going. There's that one. Take a look at that. Look at all that big chunks of chicken in there. All the vegetables, corn, peppers. Got some rice down there. But look at the size of that chicken. It's huge. Okay, this one's calling for 1.5 cups of water. So we'll go ahead and get that in there. Smells good already. Agitate that around a little bit. Again, be careful, it's really, really hot. There's our granola crunch. Some strawberries in there. Let's go ahead and add our 3/4 cup of cold water. We'll seal that up. Agitate that around. Okay. Technically, this one's ready to eat as soon as you finish kind of shaking it up and getting everything dissolved and incorporated. This is not a hot meal, so that one's pretty much ready to roll. But I'm going to let it sit just for a few minutes while we go ahead and get the other ones ready to go. All right, next I'm going to make up this Mocha Mousse Pie. My wife is really going to love this one. This is another cold water one just like that. We'll just make it up, and this one's a little bit different though, and that's why I wanted to do this one. Oops. Ah, we got powder spilling all over the place. Okay, there we go. And shake it up. And we'll let that theoretically turn into pudding. Okay, that's mixed up pretty good. We're going to let that sit for a few minutes to congeal into, hopefully, mousse. All right, last but not least, I'm also going to make the freeze-dried apple crisp. So I know what you're saying. This is a lot of food. Don't worry, this is not going to go to waste. We'll munch on this for the rest of the day and probably tomorrow too. That's the nice thing about these resealable bags is you can just seal up your leftovers and save them for later. Of course, you can also seal them up and pack out your garbage. But this is the Apple Crisp from Mountain House. This is going to take some boiling water, 1 cup, to get that working. Well, those apples are already really puffing up. Ooh, that smells good. It smells like apple pie. Okay. And let's go ahead and agitate that up a little bit. Get everything incorporated. We'll set that aside. Go give everything else a quick sort of mix up again. All right, let's start out with a little bit of breakfast. Let's start out with the Weis Company Strawberry Granola Crunch. So this has been sitting for a few minutes already, getting all rehydrated and everything. Obviously, you could just eat this right out of the bag, but in the interest of showing you guys what it looks like, I'm going to dump it out into a bowl. Pretty much everything. The bag, in case I don't finish it, I can put it back in the bag. So, kind of the consistency of sort of a runny oatmeal. It smells really good. It smells like strawberries, a little bit of vanilla. Let's take a taste. Pretty good. And if you don't want it that mushy, you could eat it right away. I obviously let it sit for a few minutes. If you ate it right away, the granola would be a little bit more crunchy. The taste and the texture, everything is exactly what you would expect it to be. There's nothing off-putting there at all. We got a lot of other things to try, so we'll move on. We'll save this for later, though. And the next one we have up is the Savory Stroganoff. That's ready to go. We got that right here. There it is. You see, we got about 1 bowl's worth. It's a little, pudding-ish. They're very creamy. Some of these are. They kind of tend to get mushy. Has always been my experience with most of the Weis Company sort of emergency meals that they do like this, is they tend to be a little on the mushy side. Let's go ahead and take a taste. That's exactly how I remember it. The consistency is a little off. You know, this is not really like creamy. This is like pudding. You know, it's kind of like snotty, and I know that sounds terrible. But it's just the consistency of this stuff is just slightly off. It does not look like it does in the picture. You know, that looks creamy. You know, this looks like a bowl of porridge. You know, and that's basically what the consistency is. Flavor-wise, you know, underwhelming. It tastes kind of like stroganoff. It's kind of weak. Is it bad? No, it's not bad. Is it good? No, it's not good. It's kind of in between. But again, this is not the same level of these. Here we're using things like, you know, non-dairy creamers to get sort of that creaminess, and we're adding soy fillers and things like that to kind of give us our texture and our protein and stuff like that. So, you know, this is an emergency meal. This is not something you're going to sit around with your family around the dinner table and enjoy and talk about the day. You know, this is something that you would eat in an emergency situation in a preparedness pantry. In that type of context, this is a wonderful meal. This is a meal fit for a king in that kind of context. So context is everything. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this into a bowl. There we go. Let's give that one a little taste. Look at that, just those big chunks of chicken in there. It's really good. The chicken has got really good chickeny consistency. You definitely know you're chewing on meat, and it's chicken. It tastes like pretty much normal chicken. It's not like super spongy or anything like that. I would easily eat this like on a normal basis. This is excellent. It's not overly like it's not just mush like the stroganoff was, where the whole thing just has like one consistency. This actually has competing textures and consistencies. That's really good. I'm going to move on because we got a lot more stuff to eat. Definitely going to hold on to this one. Polish that off later, no doubt. All right, let's move on to the Backpacker's Pantry meal here. We'll grab another bowl. We'll pour this out. Again, I've let this go way over its allotted time. It's still a little on the soupy side.
I've noticed myself with other backpacker pantry meals that I've done, they always seem to take a little longer to get ready than the instructions say. They always tend to go a little longer. And sometimes the textures are a little off too. We'll see how this one does. Smell it. Smells really good. You see all the different ingredients in there. You can tell what's chicken, what's rice. The sauce is a little on the runny side. This is probably a little bit runnier than I would expect it to be. This was rolling boil hot water that was put in here. It's still very warm, even though it's been sitting for well beyond the allotted time to make the meal. Put in the correct amount of water. This isn't too much water for this package, but I would expect this to have absorbed a little bit more. Everything has soaked up the appropriate amount of water. There's nothing that's, you know, crunchy or al dente. You know, the beans are soft. The chicken is soft. Everything tastes really good. It's got good flavor. It tastes good. But I will tell you, holy crap, is this salty. That 1,400 plus milligrams of sodium that we were discussing earlier, it is very prevalent. This is a very salty dish. So not that that's necessarily a bad thing. You know, if you're out and it's hot and you're working a lot, you had a long day and you've been sweating and everything, man, a good salty meal will actually probably be good for you. And, you know, of course, if you're living off the land, you know, you're living off of your garden, you're living off of your, you know, small game and stuff like that, you're probably not going to get a lot of salt in your diet unless you add it in. So probably a salty meal every now and again would be a welcome thing. But for, you know, everyday eating, this is a bit too salty for me. Definitely salty. Comparing that to the Mountain House meal, the texture here a little bit better and way less saltier. And I think it tastes better too. So here, you know, not bad. Personal taste, for me, much too salty. So let's move on. Let's get some desserts down us, huh? If we can get a dessert down them, can you throw in a couple of hats for the kids? All right, so we're gonna get into the desserts now. So let's see how this. Ooh, yeah! Look at that. We're just gonna dump this out here. Boop. Look at that. Ooh. Yum. Okay, now we're going to sprinkle on our graham cracker topping. Because again, this is a pie, so this is taking the place of your crust. Agitate the apples a little bit. Sure, those are ready to go too. Ooh, yeah. Look at that. All right, let's dump our apples out here. We have the granola topping there. Look at that. All right, I'm super duper looking forward to this. So here we have our chocolate mousse, mocha mousse, sorry, with graham cracker topping. I'm going to kind of incorporate the topping there a little bit. Doesn't look the best, but let's see how it tastes. Oh, is that good? Yeah, it's like a super thick and rich chocolate pudding. It has this little background hint of coffee. That's really good. The graham cracker in there definitely gives it kind of a pie kind of thing going on there. Let's get into this guy here. Oh yeah. Cinnamon, apples, kind of got this graham crackery kind of note going on in there. And of course that crunchy granola. The consistency of the apples, they're pretty accurate. They're not just little sponges. You know, this is not exactly a fair shootout because we're two very, very different desserts here. They're both really good. This one is definitely my favorite, especially if you're into chocolate. Yeah, that one's much, much better. Super nice. This would be an absolute stellar treat at any time. But this is pretty good too. This is an odd combination to be going back and forth between. But this is pretty good too. I think what I could say is I had pretty high expectations of this one, and I think it exceeded those expectations. Backpacker's Pantry is known for doing really good desserts. So I have high expectations going into it, and this one definitely lived up to it. That is an excellent dessert. This one, I had pretty high expectations of it. I mean, I have high expectations of all of Mountain House's stuff. I think this one, it pretty kind of fell short just a little bit. It's a little... for how good this one is, this one just falls slightly short of my expectation. It's slightly blander. You know, it just falls just, you know, like a yard short. So there you go. You know, what I consider freeze-dried meals like these and the desserts and everything else to be is a nice way to augment your long-term food storage. What I really go for in freeze-dried meals is long shelf life and short usage. In other words, I'm not going to be packing in a year or 2 year supply of freeze-dried meals. That would be a lot of meals and a lot of money. But what I do try to do is to work in a decent amount of freeze-dried meals to sort of augment the other things that I'm going. So you can have a nice, delicious meal every once in a while. Maybe not every meal, maybe not even every day, but you can whip them out when you need them. They're quick and easy. They can keep you going. In times of need, it gives you a little bit of variety. It's definitely something that can augment a solid prepper storage pantry and give you some options, some variety, and some things that you probably wouldn't be able to do any other way than a freeze-dried meal under those circumstances. So that's really kind of what I use it for, and I think it's a really great way to work in some pretty interesting foods into your survival pantry. So there you go, freeze-dried meals, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed.